Hello, welcome to the weekly economic snapshot. The Colorado General Assembly session is getting underway, and we are joined by Ed Sealover, who writes the Sum and Substance for the Colorado Chamber of Commerce, for a preview of what to expect. Ed, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Bill. This is always great to talk to you.
So Ed, for those who aren't familiar, explain what the Sum and Substance is.
The Sum and Substance is a website, tsscolorado.com, that has a very narrow focus on business policy. So basically, I try to cover all things happening at the Capitol, at various rulemaking commissions, anything the state government does, occasionally the federal government, that will affect businesses' ability to operate here in the state. While I do work for the Chamber, I try to cover it with both sides in each story.
Yeah, it looks like another difficult budget year. The governor came out and proposed some cuts to Medicaid benefits that would reduce the growth of total Medicaid spending. That got a lot of negative responses from both sides of the aisle. Ed, are you hearing anything about any likely alternatives?
Well, that's the $1 million, or in this case, $334 million question. No, not yet. Basically, the governor projected that without any even additions, Medicaid would grow by about $631 million in spending this year because of an uptick in spending by the people who are on the program. He proposed, instead of funding the full 631, cutting it to $297 million. And that's by a variety of things, including adding some prior authorization requirements, reducing the compensation that's paid to certain Medicaid providers and whatnot. And it's the governor's way of trying to slow the growth of Medicaid. This is not just a temporary budget fix. He believes the growth of Medicaid, which has grown over the last 10 years at double the rate of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights revenue cap, is unsustainable. And he has a lot of ways he wants to do this. Legislators from both sides, however, are saying, I don't think this is going to work because what it essentially does is it's going to crimp the ability of local providers to meet Medicaid patients. And that's really going to hurt, especially in high Medicaid areas. Those are going to be out on the Eastern Plains and San Luis Valley, more rural areas, as well as some of the urban centers as well. And here's the trick with it. Not only is there not a solution for where else you find that $334 million if you decide to put that back into the budget, but the governor has also proposed privatizing Pinnacle Assurance, which is the state's leading workers' compensation insurance provider and is also state chartered. Doing that would save $400 million, and that's a key to his balancing the budget this year. That makes up about half of the projected shortfall. However, there are a lot of people who don't like that idea either, worrying that it will get rid of the state's provider of last resort. And there hasn't been any real proposals for how to make that money up yet either. So we've got about $734 million that hangs in the balance here that people don't like these proposals, but they don't necessarily have an alternative.
Yeah, it certainly looks like some difficult choices ahead. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Another key issue for the last couple of sessions has been housing affordability. Is there anything more on the horizon on that topic for this session?
You know, it's funny you asked that. I've been talking to a lot of legislative leaders lately, and I've asked the same question. And most of them are saying, I don't think we're going to go big this year, that we've really gone big over the last couple of years trying to do things to incentivize or in some cases mandate greater growth around transit lines, to reform construction defects laws. And I think the theory is this year they want to really wait and see whether this is working. However, there is another interesting area that's going to play out, and that is the interesting area of property insurance. Right now, homeowners insurance is skyrocketing if you can get it. There are some places that are even hard to get it. And there are going to be some competing proposals about how to achieve this. The state is going to be coming back with a plan from the insurance commissioner's office that would essentially set up an enterprise where everybody would have to pay into it. And then the money would go out in grants to help people protect against hail and wildfire, two biggest things that are causing homeowners insurance to skyrocket. But that died last year because people don't like the idea of an enterprise. Those are getting less and less popular. The idea of paying in to get help from the state is not sitting well with all legislators. And so there's going to be some competing proposals saying, how about we just offer incentives? How about we offer some more some savings account style allowances to see if people can put that money aside tax-free to then bolster their roofs, bolster their wildfire protection, things such as that. So I think we're going to see a shift this year in the discussion about affordable housing from the actual housing to the insurance costs for that housing. Interesting.
Well, that definitely is a big and growing issue here and actually in many other parts of the country as well. What are the main issues that business should be watching for in this session?
What shouldn't they be watching for? There's a ton of issues. I kind of laid that out in a very lengthy preview of the session that I wrote for TSS Colorado this weekend. But I'm gonna narrow it down to two of them: regulations and energy costs. The state, according to a study that we at the Colorado Chamber of Commerce commissioned, is the sixth most regulated state in the country, and that is driving up costs for businesses. That's driving up costs of products. That's really leading to this affordability crisis in some ways. And so you're going to have some competing efforts this year. There's going to be a regulatory reform effort coming from the Senate President, James Coleman, who said he wants to take a look at some of the regulations, see if they're working or if they're overburdensome. Meanwhile, there's going to be several bills that look to increase regulations on things like how you oversee, as an employer, workers who are working outside at what's called extreme temperatures, below 30 degrees or above 80 degrees. There's also going to be a lot of discussion around the regulation of artificial intelligence. Now, folks may know this, but 2 years ago, the state passed the most comprehensive AI regulatory bill in the country. So comprehensive, folks said, that it's going to stunt the industry. It's going to require things like appeals to any deployer or developer who uses AI for a consequential decision, which can include even whether somebody gets a job interview. They have been working for the past 2 years since then to reform it, and nothing's come about because the sides aren't agreeing. That's going to be a big issue because that law kicks in on June 30th if there are no changes to it. And the second thing I will mention real quick is energy costs. I think a lot of people are worried about their increasingly rising costs of energy and the state's requirement to shift over to more renewable energy sources. And we're going to see bills that may try to push that up to actually speed up the transition to more renewable energy sources, as well as one that's going to come from the folks in your area of the world, Colorado Springs, that's going to try to slow down the transition for utilities that cannot afford to hit the marks that the state now has for them. Both of those are key to the idea of the affordability crisis and how the parties solve them in different ways.
Energy is a big one, and it's a tricky set of issues. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. And also, Ed, this is the last year of Governor Polis's term, and we've got statewide elections coming up. How does the fact that we're in an election year change the tenor of the General Assembly session?
Well, I mean, what's interesting is that Governor Polis kind of is no holds barred at this point. He doesn't have to worry about how the voters are going to perceive him again. There's really nothing anybody sees him running for again here in Colorado. So he can be a little bit more independent. And he's already shown that more independent streak over the last couple of years, vetoing more and more bills over the years, specifically when he sees too much regulation in them. That said, a number of legislators are going to be running for higher office as well. And I think you're going to see maybe some interesting messaging bills being put out by legislators that are seeking to run. Just last week, for example, unions announced that they were going to rerun their efforts to kind of overhaul the Labor Peace Act, which requires not one but two elections for full unionization of a company. And that's being led by some folks who are looking for higher office as well, because the governor has already said, why are you running this again? I'm going to veto it again if you run it. So I think there's going to be messaging issues. I think there's going to be issues about the heart of each party that are going to be coming up. And I think all of those will play into a very a session where we're not quite sure what's going to come out of it this year.
All right. Well, it's going to be very interesting to follow. It's going to keep you busy, but we'll look forward to reading your coverage in the Sum and Substance. Ed Sealover, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Will. I love coming on with you.
All right, take care. Thanks for watching, everybody.